See your Chevrolet dealer and discover how great low-cost motoring can be when you drive the Motoramic Chevrolet, the car with young ideas.
I'm gonna give you 40 days to get you back home. I done called up a gypsy woman on the telephone. I'll send me on a worldwide hoodoo. It'll be the very thing that'll suit you. I'm gonna see she'll be back home in 40 days. In 40 days, 40 days, 40 days, 40 days. Gonna see she'll be back home in 40 days. 40 days. Gonna send me on a worldwide hoodoo. It'll be the very thing.
Good old rock and roll. When you're a honky-tonk man like me, listening to the old songs sure brings back a lot of good old memories. This may not look like it, but it's a time machine. Simple instructions. Get in, turn on the key, and hit the road. In the 50s, we came of age. So did the auto industry. We were caught up in the explosion of the times. The future was now, and everything seemed possible. That's a 1957 Chevrolet, one of the most recognizable and collected cars of its era. The 55s and 56s aren't far behind. There are more restored 55, 6, and 7 Chevys on the road today than ever before. These cars were more than an example of automobile styling. They serve as a link to a bygone era. We sure like to remember those good old days. They had a style all their own.
From the brilliant new General Motors line for 1955. Chevrolet Bel Air Sport Coupe.
What we're talking about in part is nostalgia for the mass culture of the 50s. I mean, the 55, 6, 7 Chevys, like other mass-produced objects, were part of that mass culture. These sorts of images have gotten embedded in people's consciousness very early in their lives, and part of their nostalgia for their own childhood and teenage years now is a nostalgia for those things which were very significant parts of their environment. It's also true that the artifacts of the 50s, including the cars, are certainly very colorful. There was a kind of artistic license with the sort of splaying on of chrome and paint in the 50s that still is striking to behold.
The 30s demanded toughness and the 40s sacrifice. As the world went to war, the auto industry geared up for a wartime production.
General Motors plants were by now 100% on war work. The last car for civilians came off early in 1942. The same good workmanship appears now on another page of the family album, which carries the portrait of the Mosquito bomber. Its fuselage took shape on the very spot in the General Motors plant where the craftsmen of another day had built the early wooden bodies for McLaughlins and Chevrolets.
There's a great enthusiasm developing through the war, a lot of patriotism and rah, rah, rah. And we came out of the war basically on top of the world. We had a lot of money pent up there, built up. And for all through the 30s, there was no money to buy goods. And through the early 40s, because of the war, there was plenty of money, but there were no goods to buy. So it was this explosion, maybe 15 years of pent-up money and emotion and enthusiasm. The 55 Chevrolet is really the milestone Chevrolet, a totally different concept and a different package from 54 and everything else that went before it. And that was really the threshold of the interest in these mid-50s Chevys.
New Bel Air Chevrolet. Step right in.
Beautiful. See your Chevrolet dealer and discover how great low-cost motoring can be when you drive the Motoramic Chevrolet, the car with young ideas.
See, I started in the Chevrolet studio, I think it was 1951, and I became chief designer about the time that Ed Cole came aboard from Cadillac. In 53, Chevrolet was going downhill. 54 was even worse. Ford had the V8 and pretty sharp-looking car and was appealing to the young buyer. Well, that's what Chevrolet should have been doing, and that's what Ed Cole was determined to do, was to get the young buyer aboard.
Companies were after the emerging youth culture, and a high ideal was put on the value of being young.
Now, nail down the roof, gang, because here's a new act that could blow it right up. Grab your partner, grab your gal, and rock.
It wasn't easy for kids to understand their parents, who still remembered the importance of being thrifty during the Depression. But then as now, teens were the opinion leaders, and adults were quick to copy their taste. By the early 50s, research into the untapped teen market had begun.
Doesn't the noise sort of wear you down a bit, get on your nerves?
No, not at all. I enjoy having them here, and they're a great bunch of kids. In fact, they provide half our business.
Do they really?
Yes, they do.
Good.
Now, would you excuse me, please?
Yes, sir.
Teenagers emerged as big-time spenders. They knew what they wanted and bought it, just like that. With the help of Mom and Dad, they spent more than $10 billion in 1957 alone.
I'll turn the car around so we can make a quick getaway.
In a child-centered society, kids could easily nag their parents to buy most anything.
It has the super-powered Grid Ram V8 engine at 130 horsepower that utilizes the principle of the hemispherical combustion chamber with lateral intake and exhaust valves, which contribute to its marvelously complete and efficient utilization of fuel.
Chevrolet knew the value of teens as the family persuader.
But I'm not gonna give in easy. J.P. Mudrock has a mind of his own. So I consented to look at new cars.
In 1955, hoping to attract this new youth market, Chevrolet introduced an all-new hot V8. Stock out of the box, it was fast. And everyone knew that if speed was what you wanted, you were better off behind the wheel of a Chevy.
It was a more youthful image, indicative of the explosion of the times. It was a fine blend of styling and engineering, and the fact that the car ran good and held up well made it sell over and over again as a used car. And by the time we get into the early 70s, this was the car representative of the 50s. The Ford didn't have the styling package, basically. It didn't have that snappy, youthful image.
Whirling up from deep imagination, sweeping aside the old, ushering in a new automotive era.
It was the times. You have to realize that we were trying to do the hottest Chevrolet we could at the time. Totally brand new. So the 55 really kicked Chevrolet off. When we talk about the 3 years, the 55, 6, and 7, this started it. And then, of course, the 56 and 7 were probably the two most successful facelifts in automotive history.
Well, it's a Saturday night down at the old house hall. We were born to jack and having a ball.
Tens of thousands of people around the world restore and collect this plastic symbol of the 50s American car. There's no single reason why they do it, but one thing they share is passion. And the car is the glue that binds them together.
There's so many reasons. I mean, I've heard so many excuses why I buy. I think that's the funniest thing is that we all have to give ourselves excuses why we're buying this car. And really the bottom line is we're in love.
We just meet a lot of neat folks who share a common interest in anything and really probably feel pretty much the same thing we do. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, it's kind of like a camaraderie, I guess you'd say, but I just like cars.
It's like a cult. The people that appreciate these cars are here. They have the same interest. Everybody likes these 3 years that are here, I mean, that's our way of being.
You know, you're going down the highway and you get grown-ups and little kids, you know, giving you thumbs up and stuff, and it's hilarious, you know. Little kids that they don't even know what a 55, 6, or 7 is, and then they are giving you thumbs up. We got a lot of that coming from Vancouver Island. We went to that show up there, then driving across Canada. We got a tremendous amount of people just driving by and honking, big semis honk. You know, it's great.
Everyone feels an affection for those lost days of youth. It's the stuff nostalgia's made of. We long for that simpler time and forget the difficulties of being young.
So you get in Friday night, you phone your buddy up, yeah, I'm gonna leave in a little while and go. And then both of you would race to your cars and get in and be the first guy there, to be leaning against the side of the car and polishing the chrome or something when he pulled in, you know. It was that race, you beat the guy again, and your car was always the coolest.
Cruising was always a big thing for me back in the mid to late 50s. Oh, we used to cruise Grand River. Woodward Avenue was the biggest, I say, of all the cruise areas. It was just a good time on a Friday, Saturday night.
You'd go out and you cash in pop bottles and beer bottles and everything. You had enough gas money to go out and cruise all night and buy Pepsis and fries and have enough gas to cruise all night long.
In the 50s, you could pull into any restaurant, almost in any town in the United States. You would see nothing but 55 to 61, 62 Chevys and Fords and all Mercurys and long fender skirts and leg pipes, and get curb service, and they come out, and it's nostalgia, and everything was fluorescent neon and colored lights, and it seems like everybody, I guess, grew up and got married and went on to other things, but they wanted to go back to that. And it's just nostalgia drags them back.
Our next door neighbor owned one. The kids I went to high school, half of them were driving them when we were old enough to drive cars. These cars were about 8 or 9 years old, and it's what you had for a second family car. So throughout my life, they've just always been around, and I've always enjoyed them.
Say, isn't that Jimmy Jones? They say he's the richest man in Texas. Richest man in the world? Look at that, he's got a new Chevy.
A large portion of today's collectors were the kids of the 50s and early 60s. Too young to drive, but old enough to remember.
Powerful man with a powerful car.
Chevy power. The power that broke a Pikes Peak stock car record that stood for 21 years.
Better looking, safer.
A car with long, low lines, with the extra power and performance that give you the better, safer driving control.
The kind of car everybody wants.
The kind of car you can see and drive at your Chevrolet dealers right now. Right?
Right. I wish.
Gee, I wish I was old enough to drive.
Now, here's a wonderful car.
It was said that cars were intended as fantasies, sold as fantasies, and bought as fantasies.
You know what? Yes, I like it.
I'm a girl who happens to think that a brand new car is better than mink.
Excited?
Delighted. So glad I got invited.
Since it's just a dream and involves no money, which one would you like me to buy you, honey?
I can remember myself going down to the showrooms and had no way of ever buying a car at that time. Had no money to buy a car. But I'd go down and look at the cars because they meant that much to me.
I think people just fell in love with them. Those were the days when they changed car models, and most people couldn't wait till they went down to the dealers to see the new cars. Well, today, I don't think they do that much because the cars all look the same, and they don't know whether they're looking at an 88 or a 1990 or what it is. And people were
all hyped up over these, what they thought of as classy cars, and they turned out to be classy cars.
Affordable to the pocketbook, you could set the family in motion for about $2,300. That same car today, depending on its condition, could run you 20 grand and up. It may not have been the Cadillac you had on the showroom floor, but it drew a lot of looks from the neighbors when you pulled in the driveway.
In this period of time where the car was a romantic period for people, I think this is why the cars were designed that way. And then down through time, they've worn well. Let's face it, these cars are still good looking today as they were then. Why? Good design, good sections, nice side treatments, nice details. They're romantic. People love them. And I'm flattered.
Well, originally when they were first introduced in the fall of 1954, when the 55 models were introduced, they were an innovative automobile. They were totally redesigned. They were longer, they were lower, and the car manufacturers of those days were starting to put a little style into them and appeal to people's taste rather than a vehicle just being for basic transportation.
I beg your pardon. I represent a national opinion poll. We're making a survey.
Well, how do you do? I've been waiting for years for one of you folks to get around to me. Now, frankly, I think the...
Sorry, but this survey is on customer buying. We want to find out why the average American customer has changed so much in recent years.
Well, I didn't know we had.
Oh, yes, when it comes to major items anyway. Everybody knows that.
I didn't.
But you certainly don't buy the same way today as you did, well, as you did 8 years ago, do you?
Well, no. You're right about that.
Now, if you just tell me why you've changed, I'd be very glad to.
In the cookie-cutter suburbs, the expanding middle class spurred a consumer boom.
And new residential areas are springing up around them. $40 million worth of new housing in 1 year, in one township alone.
We were on the move and wanted to do it in style.
See the USA in your Chevrolet. America's asking you to call. Drive your Chevrolet through the USA. America's the greatest land of all. On a highway or a road along a levee. Performance is sweeter, nothing can beat her. Life is completer in a Chevy. So make a date today to see the USA. See it in your Chevrolet.
Cars were now a symbol of power and status. They made the suburban lifestyle possible, and the nation became dependent on the private auto. During the 50s, annual sales seldom fell below 7 million vehicles. And by 1958, over 67 million cars and trucks were on the road.
But what's this? Actually a 1956 Chevrolet, carefully camouflaged because the climactic performance test comes many weeks before announcement day. And the test itself, a certified high-speed run up rugged old Pikes Peak, America's most famous mountain, and a continuing challenge to automotive engineers.
Starting with 55, the small block engine, for instance, and that old engine has been with us forever and is still out there. If you look at the basic for the Ilmore Chevy engine that races in Indianapolis, that's still the base framework for that engine. And from a design standpoint, you know, those old cars were just bulletproof.
And it's astounding. 12.5 miles to the top of Pikes Peak in only 17 minutes, slashing the old record by more than 2 minutes.
All the stock modified classes were just dominated by Chevys in those days, mainly because of the engine, but coupled with those year cars, and everything meshed together. They had an excellent car, whether it was drag racing, circle racing, Pikes Peak, slalom, just everything that was on the go.
These are performance tests in the public proving grounds where a spectator can see what a car can do and give him an idea of why the car that wins so consistently on the tracks is also the nation's performance and sales leader.
The Chevy 265 V8 and the 283 V8 had a well-deserved reputation for being quicker off the line.
They jumped into this Chevrolet and it would go like gangbusters right out of the showroom floor, that V8 engine and the performance.
Yeah, 56, we had strong competition. And our competition was looking a little longer, a little heavier, a little wider.
Well, I never felt more like singing hooray. Just drove a new Ford, and I'm here to say it's all new. It's sure a new kind of Ford. Well, no power for the dough is a car so long. No power for the dough is so rugged and strong. And in Ford, you get a new kind of ride.
See and drive the car with the look, the feel, the power of success. The 56 Dodge, value leader of the forward look.
Competition got a little keener. Chrysler came out with the forward look. Big tail fins and two-tone treatments. Ford had a brand new car for 57. So that's what led us into the 57 facelift, which we called a major facelift. But this one wasn't as extensive. But you still got a pretty different looking car in the 56 from the 55.
We went to the wider front end, which Bob Catteray tells me I designed. That sort of slips on my mind. You know, you do so many cars, you forget who did what. But we did the wide front end to become competitive with other cars and to get more variation from the 55. 55 in the narrow front end, we had to do something else. And it was a facelift year. So we did that, and we got a longer looking car by extending the rear fenders and the side treatment.
Designers, like everyone else, were caught up in the optimism of the times, and it showed in their work.
Looks like it's still moving, even when it stops. Some design. That rear end looks just like a jet plane.
3, 2, 1, blast off! Rocket's ready! Fire 1, fire 2, 3, 4.
Functional or not, images of jets and rockets found their way into automotive designs. At GM's Advanced Design Studio, a young Carl Renner was given the freedom to create the cars of the future.
Most of us were interested in aircraft. Everybody wanted to fly. My method was I'd do a person with goggles on and a scarf flying or a little helmet, and just a steering wheel in his hand. Then I'd draw the cockpit, or the type of windshield, or center line of the hood, and it would develop. And then put the wheels in last. Others used a different method, but the results always came out the same. You know, eventually got a car. When I went to General Motors after Disney, the man quoted me a price. At Disney, I was making $25 a week. Yeah, that's $100 a month. I went in, and the man said, he asked me what I was making at Disney's. I told him. He looked at me and said, gee, that's pretty bum those days, but I thought it was good for drawing. And he said, 200 a month. And I said, what, 200? He said, all right, I'll make it 250. I was flabbergasted for getting that kind of money for drawing. It was amazing. We worked round the clock on some jobs. The money wasn't really, not to most of us, made no difference. We loved to do it. Our favorite saying was, imagine when we're getting paid for doing this. We loved the work.
Firebird 2 to Control Tower. We are about to take off on the highway of tomorrow. Stand by.
Products were made for the generation, and the generation for the products. And the Motorama was the space-age showroom.
Go on, enjoy yourselves. Look around at the new dream cars built to test new ideas and your reactions to them.
General Motors was determined to keep and build on its edge.
Oldsmobile's elegant golden rocket.
Sports Outfit by Pat Primo of Los Angeles.
Pontiac's Club de Mer, open to the sky.
Costume by Emilio of Capri.
Chevrolet's Impala, graceful and swift.
Silk Casual by Digby Morton of London.
People not only dreamed of the future, they lived it.
This is the kitchen of tomorrow, a press-button dream coming true for Mrs. Housewife. All sorts of wonders are hers at the push of a button, from refrigerator doors to countertops built for big gals or little gals. Don't have to lean over here, you see.
When I first heard about this movie, about Chrome Dreams, I started thinking of the image that came to me was the back seat of my last Chevy, which was a 57 Chevy convertible, and seeing all the stuff we were going to the beach with, and the old portable radios the way they were, and the beach balls, and all the stuff that I probably still have in my collection somewhere, you know, bits and pieces of the Flotsam and the Jetsam. And the stuff that's really cool is still fun today.
It was space age, but it's not what we would consider our space age today. People really were looking towards the future, and the designs were freer. You saw a lot more outrageous designs like cars having fins, and you got a lot of wild things happening. It wasn't like today, very minimal and very precise. It was very free.
The style, the colors, the turquoises and the pinks and the pink and black and the rockabilly and stuff. This is a Fulton traffic light finder. And you used to put this up in the corner of your windshield like this, and you'd be able to, instead of looking out like this under your visor of the sun visor you'd have over the car, this would like reflect in because of a prism effect. Now, you know, this was the style, and the cars were the things that moved it ahead. The Chevys with that cool sounding 327 in second gear wound out, that's what moved it all forward.
Well, the 5.67s were the golden era as far as I'm concerned. It was a time when everybody felt a little bit more free and it was a less trouble-free environment. And I think that there was so much good that came out of those years in terms of how people felt about themselves. You know, I guess we could never go back, certainly, but if we could just pull forward a little bit of that enthusiasm, and I think we knew back then, at a time when people tended to trust each other and trust the products that they enjoyed, it would be a greater time to live, I have no doubt.
1170-40 in the Honey Radio License to Win jackpot. It's a great night to go cruise casting, as we are cruise casting from Mickey D's McDonald's, Redford, and it's on the north side of Grand River between Beach Daly and Inkster, just south of 8 Mile. Talk about a runner-up tally of cars. We got a 57 Bel Air convertible.
I fell in love with those cars, and 57 was always the one that I was going to own when I turned old enough to drive. And that was a real great car, and since I've been 16 years old, and I'm now 40, I've always had a 57 Chevrolet titled to me, at least one. And I've owned as many as 5 at one time. And now I'm back down to 1, and it's sunshine here. And I've had her now for 9 years, and she's got a home for life. And if there was a way to be buried in her, I would be.
For most of us, these cars remind us of the things we did and the things we didn't do, but wanted to. Man, we had fun. This car is as much a symbol of good times as rock and roll and Saturday night at the drive-in.
Bound by no earthly law, possessing weird and enormous powers, these strange teenagers from outer space invade the Earth and prepare to possess its women.
What is that? It's a Sorex Soricidae.
Looks like a small rat.
Shrews as small as rats, perfect for scientific experiments, until they began to grow and grow into things.
They must eat 3 times their own weight in food every 24 hours or starve.
Well, the drive-in theater was all about your relationship with clearing your face up. You know, you were more concerned with your hormones in the drive-in than you were with the show. You were part of a platoon, and you assumed your position. You know, I mean, there's no way that a rat car would pull upside of a beautiful chopped and channeled 51 or 55 Chev. You know, I mean, it just wouldn't happen. You assumed your position in the pack.
2 minutes to go to the snack bar.
The cars kind of epitomized a time period that generally is good times, good feelings. And 567 Chevy means the same thing. Whatever that might mean to those people, it does mean something. It might mean hot rod or race car or part of the nostalgia kick, or my father had one, or that's the car I've always wanted, or, you know, those kind of stories. There were many choices available, whether it was performance that you were after, outside stainless trim appearances, automatic standards. There were just so many choices. You could have the car of your dreams if you wanted to buy a new one that way.
No doubt about it. They're damn good cars. A lot were built and a lot survived. And for most collectors, keeping those trophies on the road is an ongoing concern.
I think they start, the 55, 67, they start to get popular now because they see it in the magazines, and you get parts for. That's something special, because if you got by example, a 53 Buick, you don't get parts over in Switzerland. But 5, 6, 7 Chevys, you got parts, and I think that's the reason why it starts to getting popular over there.
We still can't believe that there's that many cars being restored, but in the Chevrolet line only. And when people don't know us, we meet them somewhere and they say, well, what do you do for a living? You know, you're on an airplane somewhere, you're wherever out for dinner, and they say, well, we're in the Chevrolet reproduction, interior, and parts business. And they kind of look at you and they say, oh, yeah, right. And then all of a sudden you give them a catalog or something and they cannot believe how many parts are available for these cars.
15, 20 years ago, the 5, 6, 7 Chevys had been in the auto records so long that they just squashed them. They were gone. And the auto records moved to newer years, of course, to service their needs. And now those cars that are found are being resurrected, not just parted out, let's say.
This car has always been our favorite. When we got married, we had a 58 Chevrolet. And we sold that. I had a 55, he had a 55. Of course, way back then you bought them and you sold them, you had fun with them. Never know what they would be worth now, of course. But we always kind of wanted another one. And why this is our favorite? I guess that you always heard about the nifty 50s and the fun 50s, I guess, but I just thought they were the best looking cars. Particularly 57s, of course I'm partial to 57s.
And no wonder. In 57, there's nothing like a Chevy but a Chevy. In new styling that instantly appeals to your eye, and in newest performance features.
It's a major facelift on a 55 body. And we really spent the money on this car. Or Chevrolet did, I should say. So that the buyer, you know, psychologically, we wanted him to think he was buying a baby Cadillac. Here, the side treatment is different, naturally, from the 55 and 6. No two-tone paint. Why? The designer was getting tired of the two-tone paint thing by this time, so we figured, what can we do to give it a Bel Air treatment, but no two-tone paint? So we wound up with a nice chrome spear, and then selected some aluminum back there, which went on the side and blended in with the new tail fin that was designed. And of course, the tail fin lent itself to a new taillight.
The 57 Chevrolet is
it's said to be the most popular car of all time. There's never been one before or since that has been as popular or probably as all-around good a car as a 57 Chevy is.
And one of the other expensive things that we did on the 57 was lower the hood. And that made us lower the cowl. And that was an extremely expensive thing to do. And it got into all sorts of complications in the engineering end. But we did it because Cole had the feeling this is what the people want and this is what they'll pay for. And there's, you know, we ran into a lot of people who would say, oh, you can't do that because it's going to be too expensive and I can build that car for 23 cents less or $1 less some other way. But that isn't what people should look for, and that isn't what Cole looked for. He was after what do the people, what will they buy? What will they like? And I think he had a pretty good sense of that.
Well, I'll call it Joe Sixpack's car. Joe Sixpack, common man, Mr. America. Down where the rubber meets the road. They were ready to move out into the suburbs and get away from being tied down. They wanted to get out in the country and out in the world and go. And these cars that were built in the mid-50s were just representative of go, 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 go.
We are a small family.
We
do everything together. Yeah.
Where?
Taking a trip.
Where few families had a car in the early 30s, the family of the post-war not only had a car, but wanted a second. The streets and highways were not prepared for the car explosion. By 1960, 4 out of every 5 families owned a car. The landscape was being transformed.
Each section to improve existing traffic conditions as it is finished. Clover leaves and underpasses will take the place of the old level railway crossings to speed the movement of private and commercial transport. A beginning has been made, and there is yet much to do.
Increased car travel brought about thousands of new roadside establishments, fast food joints, service stations, drive-in movies, and motor combined with hotel to spell motel.
Let's go up and see it in action.
Dominating the landscape with an annual budget larger than some small countries, General Motors was the largest company in the United States. Time magazine honored GM President Harlow Curtis as Man of the Year. What's good for the country is good for General Motors, and what's good for General Motors is good for the country. Ford may have invented mass assembly, but Chevrolet was now the king of the middle-class motorists.
We had a period of time there at General Motors where we had probably the most successful team in history. We had Harley J. Earl, who was a powerful executive, as vice president of design staff, and we had one of the most dynamic men in the world, Ed Cole. He was a creative engineer, and Ed Cole was the spark behind Chevrolet. And so between all these guys, they had a team that worked well together.
I think all of the people in our studio were enthusiasts, and I think, I know Cole was an enthusiast, and Earl was certainly an enthusiast, and you needed that enthusiasm throughout the development of the car till you had a final product. And now I see in the clubs, there's the same enthusiasm, and they're carrying that on 35 years later, and I think that's terrific.
Guys, like we were talking about before, they'll buy a car that's a 7 or 8 year old restoration and completely redo the car over again.
It's a place where we have the room to put some of the cars, and other club members are aware of it, and for many of the simple items like door handles, sheet metal parts, floor pans, quarters, a few things like that, they're there, they're available. The thing is, you just can't go to an auto records because there just are none there anymore. The source of used parts in that manner is gone.
These people are preserving some of these cars that have been, that if not, would be rotted away. And
lately the car business has turned into a big business is what it is, and if it wasn't for the little guys like us, these big guys with the big money cars wouldn't be there now, because the little guys have preserved them, and they preserve them because they have a love for cars.
Jump, 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 everybody, jump, 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 everybody, jump, 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 everybody, jumping at.
Well, it wasn't a whole lot to get done, but we went ahead and had it painted, and the paint really turned out so fantastic that somebody suggested we put it in the car show. And we said, nah. But we did. It was a car show, a local car show in Richmond that we put it in. And it won everything. And we were hooked. And we've been hooked ever since.
About 8 years ago, we bought my son one for Christmas. It didn't have no transmission, no motor. Body was terrible, you know. But he had 3 years to go before he got his license. So on the day he got his license, the car was ready and he drove it out of the garage.
Hey, Joe, how about some lights? Now, did you ever see anything as new and as fresh looking as that?
It's so new, it's almost too new to be true.
You know, by golly, he's absolutely right.
The 50s were rough. When the 55s came out, that really was a break for General Motors. 55, 6, and 7s. And the 58s were pretty bad there. They went a little haywire.
Yes, the 1958 Chevrolet, all new, with inspired sculpturamic styling, breathtaking lowness of design, dramatic big car width and length, the most fabulous automobile of the year. Luxury lounge
Our minds then
interiors
became
reach a new
glued on 1958, 59, and 60, and we got rid of our 55, 6s, and 7s, and they're out of our mind. We were out and doing other things. But I understand why people would want to go back.
This is a story of a man who wanted a new 1957 car. He did a lot of looking, a lot of thinking, a lot of comparing. But his final choice was surprisingly easy. Yes, you're right as rain. He bought a new 57 Chevrolet.
Yeah, it's the question is asked 100 times, and then everybody has an answer, you know. What makes the 55, 6, and 7 so popular?
The designers and the engineers and the modelers worked together. They traded off ideas. And our studio was sort of like a family. It was really great.
GM couldn't do any wrong in those days. They were, you know, like, for example, Chevrolet was doing 65% of the corporation's business between 55 and 58. And that was more, that 65% was more than the entire Ford Motor Car Company was doing, and Chrysler.
Odds are, this car will be rescued. Other cars do and will continue to have their place in our cultural history. But the classic Chill will always stand as the ultimate 50s symbol. Top of the heap of automobile mass consumer style. The designers say it was their intention to make the best car possible, and they captured the dream of a generation. And today's collectors are keeping those dreams alive.
So in those days, you'd have a car, which was your motel room, your apartment. You could throw your clothes anywhere you wanted. You could do anything you wanted in it, you know.
I was in a car show over there, and he said he was conceived in the backseat of the 57. Cruising was just never a term then. Now it's a term, you know. That's just what we did.
It's a way of life.
A way of life. It'll never be that way again. You know, it's great now, but not as great as it was back when it was really happening.
I doubt very much if anything that they're building today in the automobile market will hold its value, its intrinsic value, the way these particular vehicles have. Today, all of the new cars, they all look alike. Aerodynamics, I guess they call it.